Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to Learn Linux TV. In this video, it's going to be a ton of fun because what I'm going to do is show off GNOME Boxes. GNOME Boxes is an awesome virtualization solution that you could use to spin up a Linux VM or 2 or 3 or 10 on your Linux distro. Some distributions build this software right in, so you might already have this installed. What I'm going to do in this video is give you a complete overview of GNOME Boxes. I'll let you know how to install it if you don't already have it installed. I'll go over some of its features, and you'll also see the process of spinning up virtual machines in this video. And I can't wait to get started, but before I do, I just wanted to take a moment to mention the sponsor for today's video, System76. If you haven't heard of System76 before, they're a company that makes computers that are born to run Linux. So this way you don't have to finagle your computer just to try to get it to run Linux. It'll run Linux already out of the box, which is a lot easier than trying to force Linux to run on something that it wasn't intended to run on. Located in Denver, they make some awesome computers, both laptops and desktops. So you could buy a laptop that was born to run Linux or a desktop that was born to run Linux. I've reviewed the Pangolin laptop recently, and I absolutely love it. You could check out that review if you haven't already done so. But even if you're not in the market for a laptop, they make awesome desktops. The Thelio line of desktops is something that you have to see to believe. They look awesome, but they also perform very well in addition to that. In fact, I've edited countless videos on my Thelio, and I've had a great experience, so I highly recommend both their laptops and desktops. So, support the channel and check out System76, I would really appreciate it. And thanks again to System76 for sponsoring today's video, I really appreciate it. Now it's time to dive into GNOME Boxes, so let's get started. First, let's go over a bit about what GNOME Boxes is and why you might want to consider using it. Like I mentioned during the intro, Boxes is a virtual machine solution similar to VirtualBox. Boxes is very easy to use, with it taking just a few clicks to do pretty much anything. You could use it to quickly spin up a Linux box or two, and it has great features such as snapshots, USB redirection, folder sharing, and more. Something I suppose I should get out of the way is that VirtualBox is a popular piece of software when it comes to virtualization, and it's also available for Linux. So you might be wondering, why use GNOME Boxes instead of VirtualBox? Well, the truth is, both Boxes and VirtualBox are great solutions, and I think either choice would serve you very well. That said, one benefit that GNOME Boxes has is that the interface is much cleaner when compared to VirtualBox, and it integrates very well within the GNOME desktop. It feels like a much more native solution when you compare it to VirtualBox because, well, that's exactly what it is, a native virtualization solution for Linux. Another benefit of GNOME Boxes has to do with licensing. VirtualBox has a more restrictive license when compared to GNOME Boxes. VirtualBox is open source, just like GNOME Boxes is, but the problem comes with the extension pack that's required for enabling all of VirtualBox's features. It's supposed to be used for non-commercial reasons, which means that you're not technically supposed to use it at work without paying for it. When it comes to GNOME Boxes, there's no such restriction. You simply download it and use it. That's it. Now, on the other hand, one major downside of GNOME Boxes is that it's only available for Linux. This means that you're out of luck if you want to use the same virtualization solution across multiple host operating systems. On my end, though, I use Linux primarily, so it doesn't bother me at all that GNOME Boxes isn't available for other platforms. In fact, it's my preferred desktop virtualization solution due to how well it integrates with Linux, and to top it off, Boxes is a first-class citizen if you use a distribution like Fedora. I even noticed that copying and pasting text from my virtual machine to my host operating system worked without any configuration. Anyway, I think it's time to get Boxes installed so we could check it out, and that's exactly what we're going to do in the next section. Next, we could take a look at how to install GNOME Boxes. The process is fairly straightforward, and for some of you, it'll be easier than others because some distributions include Boxes by default. For example, Fedora ships GNOME Boxes as part of its default software stack, so if that's your distro of choice, then you're already good to go. To confirm that it's installed, we can simply look to see if it's listed among our other applications. So in my case, what I'll do is access the Activities Overview screen right here. I'm going to go to my Applications, And right here, I have GNOME Boxes. And that's the icon that you're looking for to see if it's already installed. In some distributions, you can simply open GNOME software and search for boxes. And here it is. In my case, it shows that it's already installed. I'm actually running on Fedora, so I didn't have to install it just like I mentioned. But right here, we see that Boxes is available. And also right here, we have a few different options. Now, Fedora includes the RPM version of GNOME Boxes by default, which is fine. But if you want a newer version, then you can install the Flatpak version instead. I'll leave that up to you. I'm just going to stick with the version that's already included. But if you wanted a newer version, just install the Flatpak version, and it'll be kept up to date as soon as GNOME releases new versions. In fact, for those of you that do have a Flatpak option, you might want to consider that route. Some distributions lock their Boxes package to an older version, and typically the Flatpak version will be the most up-to-date. Again, I'll leave that up to you. I should also take some time to mention my video that explains what Flatpak is and why you might want to consider using it. Not all distributions have Flatpak available by default, but in that video, I'll show you how to enable the format. Once you do that, you can install the Flatpak version of Boxes even if your distribution doesn't already offer it. The package shouldn't take that much time to install, and once it's done, you should see Boxes among your other installed applications. Now that we have GNOME Boxes available, let's see it in action. And when you first open it up, Boxes will look a little empty, and that's because we haven't yet set up a virtual machine, so let's get into it. So to create a virtual machine, what we'll do is click on the plus icon right here, and then what we'll do is choose Download OS. Now, if you've already downloaded a QCOW2 file or an ISO file and you want to do it manually, that's totally fine. But I recommend using the Download OS button because it ends up being a lot easier. So I'll click on that. And you'll see that there's quite a few distributions on this list. Now, to keep it simple, what I'm going to do is just choose Fedora Workstation, even though that's what I'm already running, but let's see what it takes to run a virtualized version of Fedora. So I'll click on that. And as you can see right here, it's downloading. Once we choose our desired distribution, it's going to download, and then once it's finished, we'll have a chance to customize it a bit. Depending on how much CPU and RAM you think you could spare, you could customize this accordingly. I'm just going to accept the defaults on my end. You can also change the name if you want to give it a custom name, but again, I'm going to accept the defaults. I'm going to click Create. If you see a message like this, simply choose Allow. This means that GNOME Boxes wants to take over some keyboard shortcuts. You may or may not see this, but I'm going to click Allow to allow that to be the case. And although it's really small, we can see right here that Fedora is starting up. To speed this up a bit, I'm just going to hit the up arrow and press Enter. And now we can see that Fedora is starting up within the virtual machine. As you can see here, Fedora is started in live mode. And if you've used Fedora before, then this probably looks very familiar to you. What I'm going to do right now is just click on Install Fedora. And here we have the installer. So what I'm going to do is simply click Continue. If you need to change your language to something else, feel free to do that. Mine defaulted to English, which just so happens to be what I speak, so I'll click Continue. And if you've ever seen the setup process for Fedora, then this probably also looks familiar to you. What I'll do is click Installation Destination. I'm not going to change my keyboard layout. I'll leave that on English. But I'll click Installation Destination right here. And it's going to select the only disk that I have on the virtual machine. So I'll click Done right here. And that satisfied the requirements for Installation Destination. You might want to consider choosing a different time zone if it's not correct for you. New York, in my case, is correct enough, so I'll click Begin Installation. And it looks like the process is finished, so I'll click Finish Installation. And now what I'll do is reboot. I'll just go up here and click on this little power icon, and then restart. At this point, Fedora is installed inside the virtual machine, so we'll be good to go in just a moment. We do have a bit of configuration to do, but for the most part, we should be all set. And here we have the virtual machine. We can see that it's starting up, so I can single click right here. And now Fedora has started. I'll click Start Setup. And I'm just going to skip through most of these settings here. Just be sure to read this information if you want these things enabled or not. I'll just leave it alone and click Next. Enable third-party repositories. That's probably a good idea, so I'll click on that. I'll click Next. Now I'll create a user for myself. I'll just keep it simple and click Next. Now I'll set a password. And I don't care that it's not a really good password. This is just a virtual machine demo anyway. I'll be deleting this virtual machine as soon as I'm done recording, so I'll just leave this as a simple password for now and click Next. And it says I'm all done, so I'll click right here to start using Fedora Linux. I'm going to skip the tour for now, so that way I can go to the desktop right here. And now Fedora is ready for use. However, there's one more thing that I want to point out. At first, performance within your VM might be terrible. For example, I'll click right here, and I'll open an application. And then what I'll do is move this window around a bit. Now you can see that there's terrible lag and a lot of glitchiness here. It doesn't look good at all. The frame rate must be terrible, but it's easy to fix. And in order to fix this, we'll need to enable 3D acceleration. This is actually disabled by default, and it's a per VM setting that you'll need to toggle within each VM that you create. Some distributions might require you to install a specific package, but the package that we need in Fedora is built in, so we won't need to install anything to enable 3D acceleration. But again, it's disabled by default, so we'll need to turn it on. To do so, what I'll do is click right here. We're going to go to Preferences. And right here, we have an option for 3D acceleration. So what I'll do is turn that on. And that should be it. Now on my end, simply turning that on didn't help, and restarting didn't help either. For whatever reason, we have to shut down the VM and then start it manually. We shouldn't need to do this ever again. It just happens the first time we create a virtual machine. But anyway, now that we've enabled that setting, I'll shut down the VM. Power off, and power off. Now the virtual machine has been powered off, so I'll just simply click on it to turn it back on. And now it's booting up. I'll give it a moment to start, and we should see a difference in performance right away. All right, here we are. So I'll click on my username, and I'll type my super secret password. And there we are. And now, as you can see, the performance is much better. Now what I'm going to do is show you the process of creating a virtual machine that does support auto-install. Here with Fedora, we had to install it manually from the live media, but what I'm going to do is show you something that's even easier. So what I'll do is click right here to create a new virtual machine. Again, we'll choose Download OS. And what we're going to do is choose OpenSUSE. So I'll click on it, and just like before, it's going to download. And now that it's finished downloading OpenSUSE, we see the same screen that we saw last time while we were creating the Fedora VM. However, we see a brand new option right here, Express Installation. So what I'm going to do is enable that, and then what I'll do is type in my desired username and password. Next, I'll click Create. And now we can see that OpenSUSE is installing. I'm going to click on it. And what it's going to do is install the operating system automatically. All I had to do was type my desired username and password, and Express Installation is going to take over from there. This is a lot different from the Fedora VM because with that one I had to do this manually. With OpenSUSE having Express Installation enabled, I'm able to forego most of the steps that I had to do last time. So as you can see, it's running through all the install steps and it's not requiring me to do anything. This is really, really cool, and it saves a lot of time. And now it's starting up, so we'll just give it a moment to finish. Looks like installation is complete. And here we are. Just like before, I'm going to enable 3D acceleration. I'm going to go to Preferences, and I'm going to enable it. And just like before, I'm going to shut it down. And now I'll start it back up. And there we are. We now have OpenSUSE installed in a virtual machine. Now that we've set up one or more virtual machines, there might be another step that's required when it comes to setting up 3D acceleration. If you've used other virtualization solutions, then you are probably accustomed to installing a special piece of software to enhance the performance of your VM, and this is known as guest tools. Some distributions are smart about this and automatically enable guest tools if it detects that it's being installed within a VM. Other distributions, on the other hand, will make you do this manually. In the case of Fedora, guest tools are built in, so all we had to do was enable the 3D acceleration option and then power cycle the virtual machine. After we did that, as you saw, we had much better performance. For other distributions, you might need to install the Spice VD Agent package in addition to enabling 3D acceleration. What I'll do is leave some commands on the screen right now for a handful of popular distros, so if guest tools aren't already installed, then you can run the appropriate command for your distribution. Remember, you're installing the guest tools package inside the VM, not your host machine. Continuing, now that we've installed GNOME Boxes and saw the process of creating virtual machines, what I want to do for the remainder of the video is cover a few popular features that you should be aware of. And the first one is USB redirection. And the concept is relatively simple. Suppose you have a physical USB device that you want to access from within your VM, such as a flash drive. Normally, once you plug a flash drive into your host machine's USB port, your computer's OS will mount it automatically. This means that by default, any USB device you plug in will only be accessible from your host. To redirect a USB device to a virtual machine instead, the process, like I mentioned, is relatively simple. So what I'll do just to demonstrate this is connect a flash drive to my host computer. So what I'll do is click right here, then I'll go to Preferences, then I'll click Devices and Shares right here, and then here we see the flash drive. So all I have to do is simply toggle this right here, close the settings, and then I'll open a file manager from within the virtual machine. And check it out, right here we see the flash drive. So I was able to bypass the host operating system and connect it directly to the virtual machine. So if you wanted to transfer data in and out of your VM, well, this is how you do it. Another feature I want to make sure that you are aware of is that you can also create snapshots of your virtual machine. If you're familiar with the concept from another virtualization platform, then it's the same idea here. Basically, a snapshot is a point-in-time backup of your VM, and you can revert back to the state within the snapshot at any time. And if you wanted to create a snapshot, what you could do is click right here, click Preferences, and then you go to the Snapshots tab, and this is where you can create a snapshot of your virtual machine. To do so, you simply click the plus icon to create a snapshot, and it's as simple as that. The next feature I want to take a look at is folder sharing. Suppose you have a directory within your host operating system that you want to access from within your virtual machine. This is very useful for copying files in and out of your VM. To set it up, what we'll do is just go to Preferences, and then we'll go to the Devices and Shares tab. And as you can see, we have an option for shared folders right here. So what I'll do is click plus, and then we could choose a folder that we want to access. So I'll click right here, and what I'll do is share my Downloads folder. So this is the Downloads folder for my host operating system, and then I'll click Save. And that should be all there is to it. So what I'll do is just go down here to my File Manager, and next I'll click on Network, and now we have Spice Client folder right here, so I'll click on that. And as you can see, we have the Downloads folder right here, so I'll double click on that. And now we have the Downloads folder for my host operating system. Anyway, as you can see, GNOME Boxes is very useful. It's an incredible piece of software, and I recommend that you check it out. In this video, you got to see a tour of GNOME Boxes, and I hope you found it useful. And there you have it. In today's video, we covered GNOME Boxes, one of my favorite pieces of software, and I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, then be sure to click the like button to let YouTube know. Who knows, if enough people do that, we might see more Linux-related content on YouTube. That would be awesome. In the meantime, though, be sure to subscribe to Learn Linux TV for the latest in Linux, and I'll see you in the next video.